Welcome, and thank you for tuning into the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Owens, along with Terry Baylor. In today's podcast, we'll cover topics such as reinventing yourself. The journey is more important than the destination. Learning to enjoy the process and the art of the pivot. Enjoy the show. All right, we live. But yeah, you got to say that again. We got to get that on the record.
So, I've been taking the time to really just reach back out to folks who have been in my sphere of influence, whether I've influenced them or whether they've influenced me. And so one of the gentlemen that I reached out to, I hadn't spoke with him in years actually. And he sent me a text back because I shared the show with him. And he said, Terry, you shared something with me years ago. And man, it was so good and time, perfect timing for my life, actually. He said, this is what I told him. I've told you before, always be willing to reinvent yourself. Then he goes on to say that wisdom has stuck with him, and this knowledge he's passed along. He says it's powerful. However, people oftentimes have a hard time executing.
Ooh, so much in that. So much. Is that not the very essence of true leadership? Something that moves a person to the point to where it changes their life, and then they give that away, and it changes so that ripple effect just keeps on going out and out and out and out and out.
But
That's
here's
so
the
good.
biggest thing when it comes back home, though. Because when I read that, I'm like, oh man, I don't
Yeah.
even remember saying that, but I
Wow.
needed that right now.
That's so good.
Right? Because
That's so
we
good.
to your point, right? Something that you shared earlier in the show, previous shows, is that this journey is a never ending pursuit, right?
Yes.
We never really get there, meaning to that place where we no longer need um, importation,
hmm
knowledge,
hmm
mentoring, right? There's always something to be gained and to be learned.
Absolutely. You're right. Because I've also had those moments where I heard something. Actually, for me, it always comes along as like something I posted on Facebook 7 years ago, right? The memory comes back up, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that was good." I don't know what I was on that day, boy, but it was good.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So this, to say the least, man, that really did my soul well. And to your point, right? We've been on this journey for a little while,
hmm
and whether we knew we were on it or not, the journey was taking place.
Yes. 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 I think to something that. So here I am, 50 years old, right, and I am really just really reaching the place where I'm really embracing this concept I'm about to share, which is the destination is not more important than the journey, right? So I've been a goal focused person my whole life.
Right.
Got to get to this goal, got to get to that goal, got to get to this goal. And there's a book that I'm reading with one of my daughters right now, which I highly recommend to everybody. It's called Atomic Habits.
Mm,
And it talks about how you reach your goals by forming a good habit system, right? And one of the things he talked about in that book, he said, um, so with a goal, if you don't reach it, then you fail. And you put your happiness on pause until you reach the goal.
mm,
But when you have a habit, a system, you can enjoy the small wins each day along the way to the goal, right? And I saw
mm,
so much of myself in that, man. I mean, it really took me back to the point to where I was just like, how many years did I put my happiness on pause until I reached the goal? instead of learning to enjoy the journey. That's something that I tell my sons. Like at their age in their 20s, I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, it's not about getting to where I'm at. It's about becoming the person you need to become to receive what I have. Right.
Mhm.
And I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, because she wanted, this new generation, right? They want to skip, to the end and just get to the reward. They don't want to go through the work. And I told her, I said, you are not. You have to become a different person before you can receive that reward or get to that goal. And it's the journey of becoming that different person, that's the most important thing, because the person you are today couldn't receive or handle that. That's why God hasn't given it to you yet. You have to go through the journey, but that I think the secret sauce in that is enjoying, learning to enjoy the process. You will get so much more fulfillment out of your life than putting it on pause and on hold until you actually get to the goal itself. I mean, when you hear that, Terry, what does that make you think about?
So I'm thinking, how do we learn to enjoy the process, right? Because in
Hmm.
that process, right, there's ebb and flow.
Hmm.
There are peaks and valleys.
Hmm.
Um, and what I, as I think about that for me, what I most get out of it is learning me.
Hmm.
Who am I? Right?
Hmm.
Because the journey, I would say, is not the task, right? It's not the necessarily the obstacles. It's not even the fun, but
Hmm.
it's who am I in each of these stages, right? How
Hmm.
do I respond in, when I am waiting for the outcome and the outcome is not showing itself, or I'm putting forth maximum effort and
Hmm.
there's not really much um, else that I can do but wait for the result to render itself.
Hmm.
I believe
Hmm.
the journey is
Hmm.
more of um, an internal look
Hmm.
versus an external look. I think to your point, being task oriented, because I'm pretty much wired the same way. If it's only that reward or that external thing that is what you're striving for, you miss understanding and learning who you are in these different phases of life, and
Hmm.
how do you learn to um, master
Hmm.
your emotions, right,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
these different stages and phases of getting to success, because
Hmm.
there is no success without a setback.
Hmm.
You're going to have them. It's just
Hmm.
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's where I've had to learn in that the art of the pivot,
Mm. Mm.
right? Because
It's good.
sometimes we're so focused on getting there,
Hmm.
man, we just keep bumping our head
Hmm.
over and over and over again because all I can see is that.
Hmm. Hmm.
All I can see is that carrot at the end of the road.
Hmm.
Um, but
Hmm.
sometimes if we're not reflective and looking internally to
Hmm.
understand how how am I developing as a human being? And I
Hmm.
think that's where that, having a mentor, having a
Hmm.
book,
Hmm.
having a podcast, right? Something that is going to cause you to be a little more reflective
Hmm.
and how you are actually um, how you're walking out your journey, really.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Does
No,
that
I
make
love that.
sense?
It does. It does. It does. Absolutely. 100%. Um, Knowing oneself and mastering oneself is the ultimate goal of life. Right. Um, I love what you said about that. I almost look at, like you said, the carrot at the end of the road between where I am today and hitting that goal is almost like a book. And there are multiple chapters in that book. And I've read a book just for the sake of getting to the end of the book so I can say I read it. That's kind of like
Yes.
what it's like trying to
Yes.
just go hit
And
that goal, right?
it's a waste, right? It's a
It's just a
waste when we
waste.
do that
It
because
is.
we're powering through each page and
Yep.
not really really digesting the words and the
Yes.
concepts.
Yes. 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 And so where I'm at now is like, you know what? I'm really going to absorb the gravity of the moment in each chapter along the way, right? I'm giving
Mm,
more weight and emphasis to what I'm experiencing right now than I am actually getting to the goal itself. And
mm.
what I'm finding is that it's making life more engaging for me, more fulfilling for me, right? My life is so much more rich because I'm able to take a step back and, like you said, reflect and look at and really absorb the moment that I'm in right now and not be so focused on the end goal. So it's making my life more complete and more rich. It's crazy, man, that I'm really just understanding this at 50. I wish somebody had told me that at 20 because I tell a story all the time about when I was in my early 20s. I was in the Navy, but I also had a job at night. And I would literally go to work all day and then get off and go bust tables at IHOP at night and then come home 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and get up the next day, right? I was so focused on trying to, meet some of my financial goals that around this time, my daughter, who's 26 now, um, she was probably about 2 or 3. There are about 3 or 4 years of her life that I can't even remember because I was so focused on working and trying to, get this certain amount of money, um, that I missed out on everything that was happening in the moment. Right. And that taught me a lesson that it's not it's the end goal destination is not more important than the journey and the person you're becoming.
No, I that's rich. So here's the thing. I'm listening, and I think you can attest to this, right? Once we get it
Mm-hmm.
and you have it in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, is that all?
Yep.
You mean I did all this for that?
Right.
And to your point, right? But when you embrace that journey and you
Mm-hmm.
get it, it doesn't stop there, right? Um, I've heard it called destination syndrome, right? I believe
Mm.
that's the term. And so folks who only are driven by getting to the end or getting
Yes.
the carrot,
Yes.
they tend to be unfulfilled because, that's why Tom Brady wasn't satisfied with 6 rings. He wanted a
Yep.
7th one
Mm-hmm.
because the ring in and of itself, after that moment,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's fleeting, it's gone. You can't
Yes.
recapture that. Okay, I got the
Yes.
championship, it's gone.
Yes.
When you hear
Yes.
guys talk about it, right? Let's even if we take the Jordan story. What was that series they did on ESPN? They
The
didn't
last
spend as
dance.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about the championships.
Mm-mm. No.
They spent most of the time talking about the journey to
Mm-hmm.
the championship
Oh
because
yeah.
that's where the rich tapestry of
Mm.
so I'm opening up a can of worms here, right? It's where the relationships come in, right?
Oh
Because
yes.
that's really is the essence of our journey.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. We hope that you not only enjoyed the content, but gained something to help you on your personal leadership journey. Feel free to reach out to us on X and Instagram under the handles Leadership Sovereignty. Until next time, stay safe, peace, and blessings.